Welcome to Enter the Quote. My name's Oscar.
My name is George. And I don't know if we will have announced this before you've listened to this, but this is our final episode. So, yeah, this is not April Fools or anything. We've, I mean, it'd be pretty untimely, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've decided to stop doing the podcast. So we've really enjoyed the whole process, but it's kind of, we've decided to end it. I don't know what else you want to say about it, really.
Well, just as a bit of a insight into why I think like it's something that we've really enjoyed doing on a kind of personal level, of being able to connect and have a shared project and have an excuse to talk about things we're really passionate about, really interested in. And yeah, that's just been like such a valuable part of doing the podcast. I think it's been, I guess it's just been in the area of just like the sustainability of it, and yeah, just maybe not seeing it having a future in the way that, you know, was thought of like when we were starting out. And yeah, just seeing it something as more, you know, just something a bit more personal and a bit more kind of one-to-one. And I guess when you get an intuitive sense of that, you know, maybe the future of it isn't there in the way that you thought, and that, you know, it's maybe it's time to move on to something else, basically. Like that it's been a very valuable and very consistent part of our lives over the last year and a bit. Like we haven't missed a week, you know, like we've recorded episodes like the previous one a little bit, you know, say we've recorded 2 episodes in 1 week because George has been away, but we haven't missed a week. So we've been very consistent, and we always record on a Tuesday. And it's just been like such a great thing to just do every week and have to reflect on these things every week. But yeah, no, it feels like the time to pack it in, do something else. Yeah. So that's where we're at. Yeah. So this is the last step, and yeah, we'll say a bit more at the end, but like, please do reach out, say hello, if you fancy it. And yeah, it's been delightful having you listening.
Yeah, well, I should probably tell you a little bit about the episode just briefly.
Yeah,
as we kind of skipped over that. So we kind of talked about what things give us energy, and well, especially Oscar, this was the quote that he brought, you know, which things are easy to concentrate on and bring him energy. And it's just like such a nice question to go through, this quote, those you're going to hear in a sec, to really think about the sort of things that you're doing, and as a little prompt to see, you know, if some things you want to persist in. And I thought there were, well, one thing that I thought was quite interesting was Oscar talking about meditation, and how, you know, sometimes meditation can just, you know, not feel like it's really there. You'll feel like your heart's not in it, and kind of talking about, you know, what are the best ways to go through that. And yeah, I think it was a good episode, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, no, really appreciated your questioning on this one, George. Really hope you enjoy the episodes, and do reach out if you fancy it, and much love. If you can't figure out what kind of work you like, pay attention to what's easy to concentrate on and gives you energy versus what makes you tune out and feel tired. And this is by someone called Sam Altman. Don't know who Sam Altman is. I follow this amazing newsletter, which I've talked about many times, by James Clear. And he, if you follow this newsletter, then there's like really interesting quotes every week, and it's fantastic. So there's a little plug for that. This quote came up, and I was thinking, yeah, this is quite a practical discussion. It's about work. I think it can obviously be broadened out. We can talk about what kind of gives us energy and not in general. But I think, another version of this quote that I was thinking of is, how you feel about what you're doing tells you a lot about if it's what you ought to be doing. And essentially, it's just like, using your feelings, whether you kind of get into a flow state or whether you find yourself in a lot of resistance and frustration, as a compass as to whether you're doing the right thing, you're doing either the right work, or often you're just not suited to certain types of work, and you're if you find that it's like you're constantly coming up with this kind of grating resistance to something, there's something going on there. Basically, that is a signal. It's not that something's wrong with you necessarily. It's that it might just be telling you that this isn't work that you're suited to, for example, or like you need to make a change. So I've been reflecting on this quite a lot at the moment, because I've been thrown myself into, feels like I've been thrown into by someone else, but I did throw myself into leading a set of workshops, 2 simultaneous workshops, both quite different, starting at the same time, 6 weeks consecutively. And it's just been a mad roller coaster of experience, like totally stressful, like quite exhilarating. I've kind of discovered a lot about myself through doing them. So I've really been reflecting on work and what gives me energy, and is this something I want to do, and am I able to cope with the stress because it is something that gives me energy, etc., etc. So I've actually been leading the final one of these sets of workshops today before this episode, and I can just talk through that. So this morning, in fact, for the last few days, I've been quite irritable. I've been feeling quite grumpy, and I've just noticed that because like I'll be hanging out with my girlfriend, or we'll just be doing stuff around the house, and I'll get a little bit snappy, and I'll be like, that's unusual. That might happen occasionally, but like it happened a few times, and I was like, and this morning I was like, I have got this like really big workshop that I'm running today that all of these other workshops have been building up to, and I do feel quite nervous about it. I really want it to go well. The last session was not that good last week. I felt it was a bit clunky, so I do feel quite nervous about it, and I don't feel totally well prepared, and I haven't done this before in this way, etc. And I was like, oh, maybe it's just that I feel like, I just feel nervous, and then I'm feeling a bit like vulnerable and a bit irritable. So that was quite an interesting signal of something there. So I'm on my way to this workshop, the place that I'm doing the workshop. We're basically painting this collective mural, like me and 10 other young people are painting this big collective mural, and I'm on my way over there, and I'm quite nervous, and I show up, and we start getting the ball rolling on the day, taping up windows and things, because we're going to be painting this massive mural. And as soon as we get the spray paint out that we're using, and people start doing a bit of spraying, like this kind of flow and momentum starts building. It feels like sort of on its own. I'm able to just respond, and people ask me questions, and I can go over and help them. We don't have to be worried about being too messy. People can just start experimenting and having fun. And I think I then have this experience of, in terms of work, pay attention to what's easy to concentrate on and gives you energy. And I was really just feeling, this is an energizing experience. Like I feel I can be very engaged with people. I can let people, even though I'm leading something, I can let people be completely free, because we're in this outdoor space and I've got this structure of what we're doing, so I don't need to worry too much. And I was also in my comfort zone in the way of the medium that we were using, spray paint. I'm really used to using it as well, so I could just play with that, and that was fine. And so I guess what I'm saying is I definitely feel, even though some of these workshops have been quite difficult, by and large, I am very keen to concentrate on them. Definitely. Like I feel very concentrated in relation to them, and I do find them energizing and draining, but like primarily energizing. Like I feel excited by them. I feel like I want to do more. I'm very interested in how to work out how to do them better. It feels like it engages a lot of different aspects of myself that I'm quite excited by, for example, like how to structure them, how to actually help people learn properly, not just give them information. Just stuff that I find really interesting. And then also like this creative artistic aspect thrown in there too. It's got a lot of these ingredients that I find really interesting. So I'm currently in a place where I feel like I'm kind of finding work that is giving me energy, and it feels very, very different to that sense of sort of tuning out and feeling tired. So that's where I'm at.
And have you found that the workshops have always given you that? Like, because obviously, like you were saying, last week was really tricky. Do you feel like it still gave you energy, or like it was easy to concentrate on, or like what, you know, because it seems like it's the same thing, really, like the same job or whatever, same sort of project, but it might not always, you know, sometimes you might feel like tired, or like, you know, it makes you tune out. So like, yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that gets into an interesting area of like, how holistically am I viewing these sets of workshops? So like last week, if I was only aware of last week's session, if I didn't have any context of what this week would be like, or what the previous sessions have been like, what planning of them have been like, if I didn't have any other data than last week's session, I would assume that it was something that would make me feel tired, you know, and drain me, and that it wasn't for me. But I had enough experience already with that. It's quite intuitive, but I already had quite a strong intuitive sense that actually this session, i.e. last week, was more of the exception. Like I am a beginner 100% at teaching. Like I just am, like, leading a group of people in doing something. I really, you know, I honestly think that sort of thing takes years to actually really get good at. And I really feel like a beginner, but I know somewhere intuitively that this is an energizing, this experience. This is something that I know I connect with. So I think this links with building a skill in general. Like there's something about, like, say if you're like, you're really, really keen to learn to play guitar. When you start, you just will be shit, and it's not gonna work properly, and your fingers are gonna hurt, and you're like, you're not gonna be able to make anything that sounds like anything particularly. Like you're really not gonna be very good. But it is an energizing experience. It doesn't mean that every single moment of it is just the thrill ride, like just buzzing experience, because a lot of it is frustration. Like you feel frustrated, you're not getting it right, but there's something deeper going on, like more of a deeper kind of intuitive sense of that this is something you really want to do, and that it is energizing. It's just in a more subtle way. And I think that that's what's being talked about here in a way, is it's not just a kind of moment. What's your moment to moment experience? It's like, by and large, like, what do you gravitate towards? What gives you that deeper sense of energy, that deeper sense of interest and curiosity? And then on the flip side of that, like, what is it that just you've like is gray to you? You know, it's like really blood sucking, like draining, very like leaden, heavy experience, because we all have those things as well. And so yeah, I think it would be easy to see this quote or this topic as being like, yeah, what's your moment to moment experience? If you're feeling frustration, you know, if you're in a relationship and you feel frustration, oh, that's a shit relationship. Then it's like, well, no, like what's going on a deeper level? Like what's this kind of consistent sense of energy, as opposed to just moment to moment experience of energy?
So it's kind of like noticing those glimpses. Like, does this thing, you know, say like you're learning to play guitar, or even you with your workshops, like you've had these glimpses before. You know that there's like those moments of flow, or those, you know, those really great experiences you can have through it. And I guess it's just weird. It's like even within that area of, say, doing workshops, that is like a type of work, but it might be that there's certain ways of running the workshop that you don't resonate with. You know, I'm sure there'd be like a certain curriculum, if you were told that you had to teach these particular things to these people, that could actually be really draining and horrible. because you've got this specific curriculum that maybe you don't fully believe in, or you don't have the freedom to change how it's taught, or whatever it is. So I think it's interesting to see it's not just like there's one type of work, but you've got to find within that, find those little bits that you really enjoy and that do give you energy. The same with, you know, your workshops. Like there was a way, you know, you kind of made a mistake in planning the workshop just because you didn't have as much experience, or you didn't think about it as clearly, or, you know, kind of skimmed over some bits. And that meant, you know, you realized that there was an error. It was like a clear thing that you did that meant the workshop didn't really run as well as it could have done potentially. But you still had that feeling of like, oh, I know I could have done that better. Like I know there was a way to do that workshop where, you know, people weren't sat around like wondering what they should do or waiting around. So I think it's nice to be tuned in to those little glimpses. But it's always gonna be a tricky thing to find, like, is this a thing where like I mostly tune out and feel tired, but there's these little glimpses, but I can't get more of those glimpses? Or is it like the other way around? Because you're going to have a project where it could be quite skewed, but you've got a feeling that this, you know, in the future is going to be better. So like, I don't know how you think about persevering with those things that make you feel like that, and like when not to, like how to make that decision.
Yeah, super hard. I found that sort of stuff gets easier the more life experience I've had, definitely, because I like a lot of it's just a confidence thing, a lot of it's intuitive, a lot of it's a confidence thing based on experience. You know, it's just like I've done enough things that happen in sequences, you know, like you turn up each week, for example, say with this podcast, for, you know, it's just like I know I have enough experience to know that some episodes aren't so good and some episodes are really good. Some I come away with like a bit less energy, some with loads of energy, you know, and overall the trajectory is one that like it does energize me, you know, like, and that's enough to go off. But if you have very little data, you know, if you're younger, if you don't have so much experience, you know, it's like it can really like knock you off like your balance. If you have a bad experience, say you are like learning to play music, it's like I remember doing rock school, like learning to play guitar, you know, as a kid, and it's like there would be this encouragement. Rock school is like a sort of organization that I don't know how much it had to do with School of Rock. Anyway, there was a connection, but like School of Rock, the film, but like basically you were learning an instrument, but then you were also put in a band, and then that band could play live period, like every 6 months or something like that. There was an opportunity to, and like the whole audience was just mums and dads basically coming to watch that, and
the people from the other bands. Yeah,
exactly. And like maybe some like sulky siblings that have been like dragged along, you know, to watch. But it's like, you know, it might be quite easy. You do a live show, your first live show, and it goes terribly because you're really nervous, and then you're kind of like, shit, like, you know, I'm terrible at this, like I'm never going to be able to do this. You know, if you don't have parents that are kind of backing you up and giving you the wisdom of like, oh no, that's just how it is, you know, you just will be shit for a while, you know, like that's just how it is. If you don't have that kind of guidance, it's easy to just you have that, the only data you've got is that one gig that you did and it was terrible, and you don't have the experience to know, well, yeah, like the first time you do public speaking, you're probably gonna mumble or like not get your words right, or like be unclear about things, or your slides aren't going to work or whatever. And that's just that's how it goes, you know. So I do feel like there's a lot of it is just like having enough data to have enough data that's fed in so that you do have a more intuitive response to things, like a more intuitive sense of like, I just have a feeling that if I persist with this, something will happen, or, you know, like, yeah, this feels draining and I have a feeling that I just don't really click with this format very well. Or, you know, like for me, I was writing stuff down that I find draining. Yeah, so it's like really scholarly texts, You know, like I'm part of a religious institution, you know, I'm part of a Buddhist kind of framework. There are quite like scholarly texts, like really, really old ancient texts. And I read it and I just fucking, I've come back to it lots of times and I find it extremely draining. I don't connect with the type of language that's being used, and I just don't care. Like, I feel like I really do believe that anything worth saying can be said simply, you know, it doesn't need that sort of language. So that's just a view I have, seemingly. And it's like, I just find myself getting exhausted by text like that. Right. So, but other people fucking love it. They love it. You know, I know people that like really love that shit, you know, and it's like, that energizes them. Cool. You know, each their own. It's not a problem. It doesn't mean that, I'm not saying some truth by the fact that I don't connect with it, but we all have stuff that we connect with and don't, you know, like,
that's interesting how you're saying, like, if you're lucky enough, you've got parents who will kind of give you that knowledge, you know, let you know that actually this is not just everything. There's, you know, you could persist with it and get better at it, persist with it and find more joy in it. And then it kind of switches as you then get enough life experience yourself, then you can kind of do that to yourself. You're kind of coaching yourself because you're still, even you've lived a lot more, and you do that workshop, like your initial things are gonna, or like you're at least gonna have some thoughts of like, shit, I'm not good at this, I should have done more prep, or like whatever it is, you're gonna have those thoughts are still gonna pop up in your head. But then it's, you know, with that, the knowledge that you've got, you can kind of counsel yourself and coach yourself, because you can say, like, actually, I can see the wider context of this and see that actually it's not just all a disaster and I'm shit at doing this. Like, you can see, like, actually, no, I've got better at things in the past. I've run previously good workshops. I can actually see what the elements were that went wrong there. And I can envision, like, if I did those things differently, if I'd prepared more, or if I'd had more of an idea of kind of the shortfalls of that preparation, then it could have gone differently and it could have been a much better experience. And you've kind of, you can talk yourself through that. I was wondering as well, like, are there any other things that you've found that are, you know, easy to concentrate and give you energy? Are there any, like, any particular ones that you found throughout your life, or that you wrote down?
Well, one of the things that's really touched on in this show, which gives me a lot of energy, and I think gives you energy as well, is this thing of really trying to work out core principles, like really trying to, like, what's really the foundation or the root of things, right? Like, and we've talked about that loads, but there's a reason why we've talked about it loads, and I think it is because it is an energizing topic. You know, it's very as a, you know, an intellectual exercise, but also, like, so, you know, an example would be, you know, you're trying to kind of get the, you know, I might be trying to get the root of why I respond to things in a certain way, you know, and I'm really trying to, like, what exactly about this thing is triggering, like, why, you know, like, I can't quite, like, it's not obvious, you know, and I might kind of, like, track it back, track, you know, like I've got one which has come out. This is just, I'm literally just talking off the top of my head here, but, like, you know, so I realized in the last couple of years, so I've always been a bit of a I've never been that good at swimming. And when I say good at swimming, I like, it's not that I'm technically bad at it. Like, I know how to swim, but what happens for me when I can't touch the bottom of the pool or whatever is I get a bit panicky. So my breathing goes off, right? So I can't, like, breathe well in the water. And I was like, why is this happening? Like, I was like that at school, and then I'd go abroad and I can swim. Like, I'm not, it's not a strength thing, but I know that if I get into water that's a certain depth, I start to get a bit, like, I'm quite uncomfortable in water. I was like, why? Like, what? That's quite weird. And then my mum told me a story about when this would have been like when I was about 3 or something. My godfather in Sweden, you get these really, like, nice lakes and things in Sweden, and My godfather's like a really very like happy-go-lucky, like very gentle, kind man, and he just wanted kind of me to have an experience, you know. So what he did was he was just pointing to the other side of this lake, you know, and you could see the other side. It didn't seem that far, but it's just like yeah, just like, we're gonna swim over there, you know. And he was just like, yeah, like get onto my back and like just, you know, hold onto my shoulders, and we're gonna swim over there, right? And I can't actually remember this, but my mum was talking about it. And you know, this is my dad's best friend, Tommy, and you know, my dad totally trusts him, and he's got you know, he's a very sound guy and, you know, a strong swimmer. And my mum's a bit hesitant, but it's just like, all right, just, you know, go for it, whatever. He really believes that he can do it. I'm sure he can, whatever, like just do it. So we start swimming out into this lake, and halfway through he starts like struggling, basically. Like they're really cold, these lakes, that are really, really deep. And he starts like flagging in the middle, you know, so he can't go back because it's the same distance, right? And it's just like my mum could see like, okay, he's starting to like get tired, you know, and slow down. And then it's kind of like, and then I'm kind of panicking, so I'm kind of like holding on more to his neck, you know, like trying to kind of hold on to him. And at some point he kind of clocks that, like, you know, there really isn't another option here. You know, like my mum was trying to get to the other side and sort something out, but like it wasn't like a, you know, it was in a fairly like wild area. It's not like there was like loads of people around with like rubber, whatever they are, little things, you know. So he just clocked it at some point. It's just like, well, you know, we've just got to get to the other side. And basically he does make it to the other side, but it's like fucking like, you know, we almost drown basically. And my mum like was so, you know, angry, and like actually told me not that many years ago, like that she kind of never forgave him for that, you know, even though he's like the nicest man, like he's so nice, you know, but just the danger that I was put in and the kind of potential consequence of that, you know. And I was told about this, so I was just like, that makes like complete sense, you know, like that's such a like traumatic and early memory that I have of water and not being able to touch the bottom and almost dying, that like that would fit in perfectly to why I feel quite uncomfortable in water. And I've always felt quite uncomfortable in water, you know. And like that's just one of those things, just like I just find that's the satisfaction of kind of like, all right, like, you know, I don't know 100%, but it's just like that would be that really would kind of get to the base of something there, you know. It's to like, why do I feel this way about this particular thing? But like we talk about it in kind of more ideas based stuff, you know, like principles, and you know, and I love that. Like it's so fun, like trying to kind of, because once you know the route, then you can then start to work out how things build on top of them, the route. Yeah, it's just like that's, so even just talking about it now, it's just like I feel energized by it as a topic, you know. So that's definitely one, and that's quite a foundational one, fittingly. Yeah, but like, yeah, walking in nature, you know, having really good conversation, like doing collage in art, I find it like very freeing creatively, feel quite energized by that. Certain meditation practices. And
what do you think when there's something that you've got that used to, or that has felt like this way, like say with meditation, for example, like sometimes you can have an amazing experience through meditation and feel energized and feel like it was so worthwhile, and sometimes you can do it and it just feels like you've just been sitting down doing nothing for 20 minutes and you don't feel any better after it. You don't feel like you've really achieved anything. You haven't experienced anything new or insightful. It's just been you sitting about for 20 minutes kind of with random thoughts popping into your head. So like, I mean, I guess we kind of touched on it a bit before, but like, do you think that is just the thing is to just persevere, or do you need to change those things? You know, is that a sign that there is something about your current practice that you need to change, or should you just persist and, you know, trust that you are going to get back into those more positive states through doing that same action?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it gets quite complicated when it's something that has felt quite alive and then doesn't. Yeah, I definitely say, like, say with meditation, you know, it's if you notice a trend, you know, if you notice a pattern of that, then it's just like, okay, then it's worth investigating, you know, because there will be some sort of energy blocker. There will be something getting in the way. Quite often it's expectation. You know, it's just, oh, the last thing was so good. Like, I want it to be like that. How am I going to duplicate that state? And it's like, it's not possible. So quite often it's something like expectation on what gives you energy. And I guess that's quite universal. You know, it's just like if something makes you feel really good, or you respond really positively to it, then, you know, you're going to start to build up an expectation around that thing. You know, just like, yeah, is it going to deliver the goods? Am I going to feel good? You know, like, I'm going to meet up with this person, and the last chat we had was so good. Like, I want to feel that good again. I want to have that good chat again. And then you show up and the vibe's kind of off, and you're a bit like, like, that's really disappointing. Whereas, like, if you'd gone in without those expectations, you know, it would have been different, but it could have equally been as energizing, just in a different way. But yeah, it's interesting. When do you intervene? Because often with stuff that gives you energy, it's often not that rational. It's not something you necessarily like figured out and you like totally understand. It's just like, yeah, like, why is it that some people like really scholarly work and other people are not interested at all? It's just like, it's just gonna be so many kind of conditions, and probably just the way that you're born, like, involved in that trying to figure it out is a bit pointless. It's difficult to kind of, yeah, I don't think I have an answer for that, really. Like, if there's a pattern, then I think, yeah, it's probably just experimentation in a way. You know, I think often it is, my sense, say with meditation, is like, the issue is a sort of, can be a bit of a kind of tightening of like, it's got to be a certain way, or like an apathy, just like, I don't really care what happens, whatever. I don't need to, like, all I was supposed to do was sit down here for 20 minutes, and I'm going to do that. And I don't really care what happens in that time, because I just want to tick the box of having done it, right? But I'm more in that category probably. But like, what is lacking in both of those, both the like fixated, it must be a certain way, and the sort of apathetic, like, I don't really care, is like that playful curiosity, you know, like investigation, experimentation, seeing, you know, like, all right, so I'm not really connecting with this. So like, not being like, I must fix it, but like, you know, oh, like, maybe exploring, oh, what was it initially that I felt intrigued by about this, or like, what, you know, like, lightly exploring and being curious about it. And maybe that is quite a good one when it comes to this kind of energy thing, is like, whatever's happening, if something gave you energy and now it's not, it's the approach of a curiosity and an investigation, but like held quite lightly, is probably quite helpful in most cases.
Yeah, because I was thinking, it's kind of is like, it partly is grace, you know, that this thing of when you have those good feelings while you're doing something, like, it's not quite, it's more of an art than a science. Like, it feels like you can't really tell, you know, it's not like you just do the same recipe each time and every single time you're going to feel the same way. It just doesn't quite work like that. Like with meditation, it feels kind of like you're doing the same thing. You know, it should be all the same ingredients, but it just doesn't get you there. And that can be, yeah, I guess more subtle things like your expectations of it, or just how you're feeling in general, maybe not having that feeling of curiosity. But then you can still know that about that feeling of playful curiosity and try and summon that within yourself and just not really be feeling it, or just feel like, I don't really need to do that right now. And I don't know, it's just so interesting how kind of ethereal it can be. And the fact that, you know, when you really try and chase it, like, I feel like if you really make it your purpose, I'm not sure if that might make it slip away more than if you kind of let it come to you. Like, what do you think about that? Like, should you have that as a goal of, I want to just do things that are easy to concentrate on and give me money? Should that be your end goal? Or do you think that like actually I need to just let that happen through the things that I'm doing naturally?
I think it comes back to one of the earlier points of like, in a way, what I think this quote is getting at is like, it can be a way of navigating. Like, it's not reliable, maybe, but it's like, it's just a question to drop in, you know. So for anyone listening, you know, it's just like, what do you do that you do find gives you quite a lot of energy? Like, who do you hang around with? What sorts of conversations do you have that give you energy? What sort of stuff that you read gives you energy? Listen to what sort of music gives you energy, you know, like, and like in relation to work, you know, like, you know, if you're in an office or at uni or whatever, like, you might not have the expectation of like, oh, this gives me energy, but like genuinely as like you know, out of curiosity, you know, it's just like, what do you find not only easy is the wrong word because it can be challenging, but like, what do you find you feel fully engaged in and you do? It doesn't mean that you have to be really amazing at it. It doesn't mean that it has to be totally easy, but you sit down and you think, yeah, no, I'm gonna do this, you know, and like, you feel engaged by it and you feel like you are able to concentrate on it. And then finding that and being like, oh, I think we engaging like, because it is quite an emotional thing, you know, what gives you energy. I think it's like, we might have never thought about that. We might be like, have just blanketed it on a more rational level of just like, for example, with like when I was working in my office job before, it's just like, I might have just said any sort of like properly creative art stuff, I like that gives me energy. Any of the like meeting stuff or like, yeah, being in Zoom meetings, I don't like that, it doesn't give me energy. But that really wouldn't be honest to my actual experience. I did find some meetings energizing and some meetings fucking so boring, and the types of meetings that they are would be quite different. And so why, you know, like, what particularly, it probably was the meetings that I found engaging, ones where we're like collectively problem solving or something. Like, I was like, oh, like that's, you know. And then the ones I found really boring was just like people explaining what they were doing that day or like doing small talk or something like that I found really boring. So I think it's just, it's like, it's easy to assume what gives us energy. Oh, I'm a creative, so art gives me energy or whatever. But that's not true, really. Like, what is it actually that I find stimulates me and, you know, gets me interested? And that's, I think it's just dropping that in and being like, oh, so what about that gives me energy? And could I shape my life or navigate my life in any way to be going more towards things like that? Because I can excel in those areas. You know, if I feel energized, intrigued by them, curious about them, you will just excel quicker. You'll be more effective. You'll be able to do more good with those things by and large. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, that seems like a good place to move on. Yes. Yeah. I mean, we will have put a little intro at the start, but yeah, thanks to everyone who's been listening. Been like such a cool project that we've been doing together, and it's been a really cool ride. I've been really enjoying it. And it's been so nice to have people reach out, or people who've enjoyed listening to episodes and that's given them some cool things to think about. That's so nice to hear. And yeah, all the best.
Yeah, it's like, I think one of the really nice parts for both of us really has been like the consistency of listeners. You know, it's just like, I know that there's been people that have been listening over the course of 6 months or more than that, who will occasionally get in touch and comment on like things that have happened in the episode. And yeah, that's just really moving, and it's lovely. And that's been a really kind of beautiful part of the process, because, you know, like, me and George will definitely be doing projects together in the future. But I think this has been something we've been enjoying, like on a personal level, just in and of itself. But, you know, having that consistency and having people reach out about stuff is like, oh yeah, like people are listening and it's doing something for them. And, you know, and there's like a small community in a way. And that's just so lovely, you know, because we really are like just sharing our experience of what we care about and what our lives are like. And I mean, really, like, if you've listened to a lot of these episodes, you're getting quite a straightforward view of who we are, basically. I don't think we're sort of hiding aspects of who we are, really. Like this is kind of it. You know, so like you are actually having a real view into what we're about, which feels amazing to have people witnessing that in a way, you know. And I know that in 10 years time we'll listen back to some of these episodes and they're going to be such an amazing, you know, time capsule, you know, of our lives, you know, in our 20s. It's going to be really cool. And yeah, so thank you so much for being on the journey with us, and all the best.